Patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and we want to say thank you for hopping in for another episode of the show. The Denver Broncos are victorious over the Buffalo Bills. So anybody that had the Broncos on their bingo card beating the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills in one season, of course, after the season they just had, kudos to you. You are the genius. And you were probably Doctor Strange in your afterlife. You probably forecasted it in the future using a time stone. So congrats to you if you were one of the few that predicted that the Broncos would in fact beat the Bills.
Hell yeah, brother. I have a new saying. Broncos country, let's fucking go.
I mean, yeah. So we already got we already got some people. Yeah, we already got some people in the chat. We got John K in the chat, but want to beast Biggie Bronco in the chat. And of course Josh Sherman as well chiming in. He calls you an Avenger, which that's definitely a compliment. That is definitely a compliment. All right. Obviously, first things first.
Damn it! My head blocks.
You guys are familiar to this by now, but if you guys are watching this in Twitter, we want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for hopping in and watching the stream. But as I said, in streams before, gone are the days of Periscope. You can't comment, you can't comment on those Periscope streams. We unfortunately can't see those comments, but you go hop into the MHRT YouTube page, subscribe, to the MHRT network. Go jump into the Manely Broncos live stream and give us a comment. And also, by the way, the Cluster Puck podcast is also going live. The Avalanche, they're riding high right now. Not only did the Denver Broncos beat the Buffalo Bills also, but the Colorado Avalanche finally got the monkey off their shoulder and beat the Seattle Kraken. So if you guys are Colorado Avalanche fans and are craving some great Avalanche podcasting, go check out the Cluster Puck podcast over on the MHRT network.
And they just scored like 8 goals last night.
So. Yeah, they did. Someone, I don't remember who this was. Someone basically posted a meme that was like, the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated, but it was just the Avs logo. Kudos to you. That was good.
Anaheim got ducked. That's all I got to say.
I don't even know if Gordon good. Bombay and Adam Banks and the Minnesota Miracle Man himself, Charlie Conway could have saved them. I mean, that was quite the beatdown. I mean, they could have ran like 5 flying Vs, and I don't think they would have scored on any one of those.
No, and didn't was McCarr the one that was carted to the locker room? Someone was. I don't remember who it was. I wasn't able to obviously watch the game, unfortunately.
From what I remember, I heard that there was an injury, but yeah, I didn't get a chance to see. Obviously, the big news of the day is Val Nichushkin is back. He's back in the lineup, and so that's good. That's certainly good to see. Anyway,
it was Kale McCarr, but he seems to be okay.
It's good to see you guys in the chat again. Thank you guys so much for chiming in with us. Before we dive actually into the game itself, it is really important that we talk about some more money being spent, baby. The Walter Penner Group did it again. It's the lucky twos for the Walter Penner Group. They decided to drop more money on another field, basically, for the Denver Broncos. Man, I I tell you, I tweeted it, but the Pat Ballin has to be smiling ear to ear, knowing the fact about what is being spent and the resources that are being spent in making this a better football product. So, and I'm trying to continue this, and we'll talk about it with the playoff hunt. But if it continues with what we're seeing and the streak and everything with the Broncos are also going to be quite the destination for free agents, not just also because of Sean Payton, but because the Walter Penner Group, like to spend money.
I'm trying to make my background picture the "stop being poor" meme.
Paris Hilton.
But yeah, for people that listen to this like after the fact, you really should check it out live because there is so much stuff that you don't know about. Yeah. So what up, Clayton? It's just ridiculous how much money that this ownership group has and how willing they are to spend it. Because like you look at teams all the time, even the teams like where they have money, which is basically everyone not named the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh my God. Have you guys ever like heard of this happening this many times, this frequently? Because I just don't, maybe I just didn't see it because like I don't see a lot of local beat reporter stuff for other teams and maybe it just goes missed by national media. But I feel like most teams just aren't really doing this to this extent.
I mean, Matty, it seems rare because it's like it seems pretty rare. I mean, and even from the regularity to what we've now seen it from the Walter Penner Group, because like it seems rare enough that you see it once, but the fact that you've now seen basically them do it twice, and not just twice, but like in 2 years now, like in 2 straight years. So it's like it was also crazy.
Reported that they're going to be doing it again after the season,
but
like some of the mini camp for like mini camps for next season, which obviously I know was like a ways away, but that it just, yeah. I mean, you clearly see the commitment to player safety. And I don't know how much of this like obviously factored into it, but I feel like we've been healthier than we have been. Like we were definitely healthier this year than we were last year. And the year before that, like, I don't know if all of it's attributed to that. I mean, I know like injury luck, injuries can happen pretty much any time. You never really know. But with the dedication that the Walter Penner Group has put into it, obviously I know they were the owner last season, but the dedication, like the money that they've spent on it, it seems like you've kind of seen the reward that reaps at least a little bit in player health. And like coming out of that bye, we were pretty much on all cylinders healthy, and it's like we're halfway through the season. That never happens.
So the Super Bowl earlier this year, however you want to say it, the field conditions were awful. It was an embarrassment to the NFL. We had our ownership group replace our field for our last game of the season against the Chargers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, in a game that really didn't matter. And then they come out and drop more money to replace the field after they had already extensively worked on it in the off season. But in season, if you want to say in season repairs, over the last, 10 games or whatever that we're at now, 11 games, they've dropped over $600,000 just in field repairs.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. The extent that the ownership group is going to go to put on a quality product, to protect the players, to basically give this proud franchise the dignity that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
There was
over the last 10 games, and not even all of those were home games, for obviously.
And like the news came out today that the Oakland A's are going to be the Las Vegas A's, right?
Yeah.
Played in the same place that the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, played. And the conditions there were awful, and it was notorious for both leagues how awful those field conditions were. We aren't going to have to deal with that kind of crap with this ownership group. And the conditions for even like the practice facility, $175 million that they've earmarked for that. Incredible. We are definitely in a different time, in a different era in Broncos country than we were, a couple of years ago when we were under the quote unquote trust, and we had no direction for the team. We had no accountability for the team. It was an embarrassment the way that this team was run into the ground. That's not going to happen anymore. Under the new group that we have, they are taking this seriously. And if something needs to be done that they can throw money at, to fix, they're going to do it.
Yeah, they will. And $250,000 was the field for the upgraded field. As this trend continues, as this type of trend continues, you're going to be if you're a free agent and you're a free agent coming into this next season, this free agency cycle, as I said, and given the current state of the Broncos right now, obviously with where they're at, and we're talking more so in the recency of this, but like if this thing progresses, and so much so that it's also not just a Sean Payton thing, but again, like you are having a foundation organization that is pouring in all their resources and money to making this such just a destination for free agents, which is so great to say, because like this place has never been, a free agency destination, since Peyton Manning was in the building. And the fact that, you actually have people that is not just, Peyton Manning in a sense, or I should say not just a quarterback in this sense. This is a head coach. This is ownership. This is success from what you're seeing on a football field. Like it's a lot of moving parts that could possibly result in them bringing a lot of free agents, to this team.
Well, did you hear who the? Go ahead. Oh, there is one name that was rumored that the Broncos would be interested in.
You know what? Let's talk about that a little bit before we dive into the Bills game. So the rumor, and again, this is a very early rumor. It feels like NBA rumors. I know Matty's used to this, but when they start talking about like NBA free agency, like in the midway point of the season, that like, oh, this player is going to opt out of his deal and sign with X team in the offseason, which we know very rarely even comes true. But Danielle Hunter, as we know, who has familiarity with George Payton, the guy that is on the hot seat supposedly. But Danielle Hunter, they say that the Broncos are expected to pursue Hunter in free agency. And again, we say that the report is obviously after that Buffalo Bills game, but Danielle Hunter is supposed to be on the Broncos' radar.
Why have I literally don't know where this came from. Where was that? Who said that?
It was I'd have to check who the report was, but if you go to Mile High Huddle, Zach Kellerman, I believe, or Kelberman, I think is his name. If you go, he's from Mile High Huddle. If you go to his page, he tweeted an article
about Jeremy Fowler. Wow. I didn't see this at all. This was yesterday. Oh, okay. It's in the ESPN Plus article. That makes sense. That's interesting. Well, so the other thing, and I know obviously we're going to talk about the Bills game, but the other thing I was going to say is, yes, the ownership group having this much, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, not just pouring money into it, but like having this much passion for the team and like wanting to make sure the team is set up in the best possible way that they can be to succeed, which, is obviously the field. It's the multi-million-dollar training, new training building that they're going to be making, which I know is not really going to be finished for several years, but you also look into who they've hired in the offseason for like the strength and conditioning. You look into that. I don't remember exactly who it was that they partnered with the, that other, like, it was an athletic training. I don't know if it was a facility or like a specific company, but they had like that partnership that they had made in the offseason. I'll have to go back and figure out exactly who it was, but it was like something to do with injury prevention. Putting this many resources into making sure that the team is, has what they need to succeed is obviously big. The other thing that, sorry, I didn't realize I had an alarm going on. The other thing that obviously goes into that is winning, right? And we're on a hot streak, we're on a win streak right now. If this team continued down the path that we started on, this would not even be remotely close to something that you would be hearing in November. You wouldn't even be hearing anything about, oh, so-and-so free agent is interested. It would be mostly like, who's getting traded next, right? If we did blow up the team at the trade deadline, that's what it would have been. But obviously we didn't do that. We stuck it out.
It's an interesting point.
Beat the Packers, which whatever. But then you beat the Chiefs, then you go into a bye, you beat the Bills in Buffalo, and it changes everything. It's insane. I know it's 3 weeks, but Winning fixes a lot of things, and money fixes a lot of things. And right now we have both of those things. So
did you say we're streaking?
No, I'm leaving that for Cameron.
Wait, Matty, say that again.
1 game, 2 game, 3 in a row. What's that? Is that a streak?
We're going streaking!
Just like,
let's go.
Yeah, just like in Will Ferrell and in Old School. Yeah, exactly. The Broncos are going streaking, man. Like, and as we said, like there was a point where, you know, and I mean, I was honest about it. I know that in our conversations with Sayer, like he was honest, like after that Jets game, and we can kind of get into the Bills game now, but like after that Jets game, I was honest, like that I was at my lowest, you know, after that Jets game because it was bad. I mean, I know that, you know, it's been a really rough, you know, 8 years, right? You know, with post Peyton Manning, everything, but like you definitely get a thrill anytime you do podcasting and stuff like that, or anything like about producing content. But when it was just at the lowest of lows with that Jets game, it was so bad. But obviously, you know, Brandon, you touched on it like a few seconds earlier, but it's like, winning cures everything. Like winning truly cures everything. And it's obviously not just for us producing a podcast or anything like that, but it's for the fan base, and it's for Broncos country, or really any team that gets the chance to experience a hot streak. And of course, we'll preview the Minnesota Vikings game. They're experiencing a hot streak and a streak of their own, you know, thanks to Josh Dobbs, the Pastronaut. You know, but the Broncos, they are really playing quite well right now. They really seem like they found their identity. You know, people can certainly say that the Buffalo or the Denver Broncos played maybe somewhat of a sloppy game, right? But by that same token, the Bills did not deserve to win that game, and they didn't win that game. You know, and because of that, and I think that one of the most important takeaways about the game that we saw, and I'll lead it off with this, is if there was one thing that I thought was so important, is if there was a game that really reiterated why they traded for Sean Payton, that's the game. I mean, you can make the case too for the Kansas City game, but that case right there, as far as why they traded for Sean Payton to be their head coach, and why a first-round pick is worth trading for a head coach. The amount of times that the Denver Broncos found themselves in disadvantageous situations, but got themselves in advantageous situations thanks to the coaching that Sean Payton had constructed. Guys like the legend Mike Westhoff, right, for special teams, running against the clock twice in one game, you know, and then at the end of the game where the Bills were supposed to have a set defense. That's on the Bills, not on the Broncos. That is on the Bills having a set defense of 11 men on the field, not 12, you know, and kicking the game-winning field goal as time is expiring in Kyle Brandt's face as the Denver Broncos beat the Buffalo Bills to go streaking. It was just, that was maybe the number one takeaway for me, is like how important that game really reiterated how big Sean Payton was and the Broncos hiring him.
Yeah, I don't think we win that game if we have Dan Quinn. Sorry, just saying it. The thing that did stick out to me, and like I don't want to be too negative, but it was just like interesting to see, is because you talked about it, like with the field position, the amount of times we had very good field position and we're not able to capitalize on it. Like that's something you have to get cleaned up and fixed. I think the official statistic that I saw was that like we had that one turnover and they got 7 points off of it, and we had 4 takeaways and got 3 points total from 4 takeaways. I don't know if that's exactly correct in the numbers. I'll have to go double check that, but we did not capitalize on those turnovers as well as we could and should have. So that was something I noticed that obviously needs to be fixed. But just to circle back around to being positive here, because I don't want to be a every downer, I do trust Sean Payton to be the coach that finds a way to fix that And again, I don't know if I would have said the same thing if I'm talking about one of the many other head coaching options that we had looked at, or depending on who you talk to, our first three choices.
Yep.
So talking about being prepared, talking about having the right guy in there, rushing onto the field to kick a field goal and be ready to have the special teams ready to go. We've seen that multiple times now. We saw it, twice, leading up into the or in that game.
Mm-hmm.
We also saw it. There was a time in the preseason where we're in the 2-minute drill and the clock was running and we had a procedure penalty.
That's right.
And with the false start, with the running clock, we had no timeouts left. They deliberated about it, talking about it because they're like, was it a false start? Did the defense jump? Whatever. Peyton had the guys ready to go so that as soon as they made the call, the team ran out on the field so that they would be ready when they wound the clock, and they were able to get the field goal attempt off, and they made it. I think it was against Arizona in the preseason. With previous regimes, we wouldn't have been in that position. We wouldn't have been forward-thinking enough. We wouldn't have had the clock management wherewithal to be able to put our team in the best position to succeed. We've seen this multiple times now with Peyton. 3 points is the difference between winning and losing this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
We, in every yard, apparently with our current kicking situation is critical. So like we've got to be ready to go, and we have to win on the fringes, because you just mentioned when we had everything go our way, we had all these turnovers and only scored like 3 points on them. That's getting turnovers is a recipe for success in the NFL, but that recipe goes to crap if you throw a bunch of salt in it by not scoring points when you get the ball in plus field position. We did that multiple times in that game. Our margins are extremely slim. Anytime we have a procedure penalty, because McFlinchy or whoever else wants to jump, we lose 5 yards, and that's a killer for the drive, or we have a hold or anything. We have a dropped pass, even on a first down, where we can't pick up 5 yards and stay ahead of the sticks. Like, we have zero margin for error right now offensively. Yeah. So in order for us to win, we have to play great defense, and we have to be exceptional in the margins. And it helps us get there.
And I think that what you talked about, Matty, is a really nice lead-in, because, look, I know a lot of people have been really critical, and we've said it every single week now, in terms of Russell Wilson. But like, Russell Wilson is playing really good football with what that offense is being asked of him. Like, he is playing within the system. He's efficient. Frankly, like, this should actually not come as a surprise anymore, because what we're seeing from Russ, what we're seeing from the identity of this football team, is exactly what we expected coming into the season. Am I right? Because this team, in terms of the way that they've been efficient, the way that they're able to, move the ball down the field with running the football, I will say it's a little head scratchy in terms of, with the way that you see it run. But I think the way that Sean Payton manages that football team is Matty said it perfectly. The margin of error is so small that the one turnover that you have against a Buffalo Bills team or a Kansas City Chiefs team, or say a Los Angeles Chargers game, or maybe even a Houston Texans game, or a Detroit Lions team that you'll be playing, or frankly even the Minnesota Vikings team that you'll be playing again on primetime. One small turnover could be the cause of winning and losing that football game. And I definitely understand how conservative he's been, but that's also the identity of what we're seeing, in the sense of it's a Drew Brees type of offense, a late Drew Brees type offense, where it's the short intermediate throws. It's successful. Russ and probably the offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi and Sean Payton, need to find some way to take those shots downfield when they ask for it. And Russ has to be confident to take those shots for sure. But the offense has definitely been humming, and that identity is humming with what they want to do. So, and more importantly too, like this is the red zone. The red zone, that has to be reiterated. It may not be pretty to our eyes, but once they're in the red zone now, this was another big thing with Nathaniel Hackett and the Denver Broncos offense last year was they could even get in the red zone, but they would never convert, right? They would never convert. Hence the whole 16-point story and, or 14-point story throughout that regular season. So the fact that the Broncos are able to go into the red zone and Russ is being efficient and the decision-making is there for him to put that team in the position to succeed and, frankly, show the plays that he's become the Russell Wilson of the past. So 3% completion percentage, or the 3% success rate of that throw to Courtland Sutton was vintage Russell Wilson. People can definitely give Courtland Sutton his due and his props for that catch because he deserves props. But Russell Wilson deserves also props for evading that defender. He could have thrown it to Michael Burton. He did not. He threw it over to Courtland Sutton for a play that looked eerily similar to that Tyler Lockett play that he did, which is funny enough, like the only two plays that have, in that probability. So Russ is balling out right now with what the offense is asking of him.
I agree to a point. And let me explain what I mean by that. I definitely agree that like Russ is playing well. That throw that he made to Courtland Sutton.
Hitting Russ again, by the way.
No, I don't hit Russ. I'm not hitting Russ. I'm just also not looking at this through the orange tinted glasses. Like, I'm trying to say this in the most positive way possible because I agree. I do think that Russ is playing well. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Russ is washed. I'm not saying I hate Russ. Like, he's good. But
I'm kidding.
This is just like my concern with this. Or not really. It's not even really concern. It's more like there's training wheels on this offense. That's the best way I can describe it. And let me explain what I mean.
That's fair.
And let me explain what I mean. So I would 100% agree. I think we're getting the Russell Wilson that you expected to get when you traded for him. And the Russell Wilson that's just, this is who he is. It's not really, honestly, what I'm about to say isn't even Russ's fault. The handicap on the offense or the training wheels on the offense isn't Russ's fault. It's connected to him, but it's not his fault. And what I mean by that is Russell Wilson has never in his life or in his career been the timing pocket quarterback. He just has never been. And he probably never will be. That's fine. That's just how he plays.
Actually.
But that does kind of limit some things because obviously we talked about Drew Brees. Brees was obviously shorter. Drew Brees had the maneuverability that he kind of had to sort of like get into a position where he could have like a window to throw. So he could actually see where he was throwing. Like, they're both good at that. Sean Payton knows how to work with a quarterback that needs to do that. That's fine. I do think Drew Brees was better at just, again, his game, just how he plays the game. He is more of the timing guy. So he'll do this, the drop, get to the back of his drop, look for his read. And if he's there, he'll throw it. He'll make the play. If he's not, he'll like step up a little bit, look for a second read. He'll throw it. He'll make the play, and so on and so forth. That's just not what Russ does. And the reason I say that puts a little bit of like some training wheels on this offense is I 100% agree that the margin for error on this team as it stands now with how Russ plays, which is if that first read is there, he's going to throw it. He's going to try to make that play. Awesome. If it's not, he's just going to take off, which is fine. Like, that's kind of who he's been. But I think if you give Sean Payton a quarterback that can do some more of the timing stuff, we could see this offense be a top 5 offense. I'm just going to be completely honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, that training wheel is mostly just Russ not having the style of play that works in every situation. And I don't know, that's just kind of how I feel. Do I think that the answer is like we draft someone this offseason? I have no idea. But that's just like going into it. I don't have a problem even if we keep Russ, although the contract is whatever, but that's fine. I don't really care. I just think like it could be so much better if we can get a guy in there that is able to do some more of that timing work. And I'm not even saying Russ sucks, not saying get rid of him. I just think you've seen how good of a job. This is more of a Sean Payton thing than anything. You've seen how good of a job Sean Payton has done. It's been such a slim margin for error because of what I just talked about. But Sean Payton finds a way to stay within those lines and not go out and not like go out of that margin where we screw ourselves over and lose. Like that's how good Sean Payton has been. I just want to see how good he would be if the margins were bigger. That's all I'm saying.
So I agree. And I think that I think that some of Russ's limitations do feed into this for sure. A couple of things about this game I'd like to highlight. Number one, the Bills had a tremendous defensive game plan from the jump. They were playing 2 high shell, sometimes 3 back. They were getting out into their zones, and we weren't able to be on time to hit those pockets to free up guys after the catch, right? It felt like they had 12 men on the field actually all game long, and they finally just called it at the end of the game. That's what it felt like. We were not able to run the ball well enough to get them to bring a safety up and get them out of their 2 high shell. We were not able to do that. We ran the ball enough, and you saw towards the very end of the game, we started to pop a couple that got us into position to win. But Ed Oliver and that defensive line had us in hell all night. Our interior offensive line has got to get better push and has to be able to open up those running lanes, because the running game, the guys were getting it and they're having to get yards after contact, and the contact was starting behind the line of scrimmage. And it was just angry runs and pure will for us to try to stay ahead of the sticks. It was like, oh, damn, like it's 2nd and 8. It's like, yeah, it could have been worse. We could have been looking at 2nd and 11. But Williams was able to just find a little crease and fall forward. So we were unable to run the ball effectively enough to get them out of their 2 high shell. We weren't on time and on target to be able to attack the zones. And then we weren't able to go beat them over the top. The only time that we were able to push the ball downfield was when they said murder, death, kill, mad dog, evil, whatever that Madden blitz like 8 guys defensive scheme is. We weren't able to push the ball downfield until they did that. And they did that on consecutive plays on 2nd down and 3rd down. 2nd down, Russ got the sack. And then on 3rd down, we got the pass interference to Judy downfield. But we weren't able to, we weren't seeing that all game. There were 2 safeties over the top all game, and they were in cover 0. We're going to come get you at the end of the game, which you can scratch your head for that too. Very remarkable defensive game plan, and then the switch when it mattered most. But I say all that to say that if we don't establish the running game and start popping off runs and getting explosive runs, we're going to start seeing a ton more of that 2 high shell, because it's a copycat league. It wouldn't surprise me if Minnesota runs out in that. And keep in mind, the Bills had 1 million injuries in their secondary.
Oh, I talked about it.
They were bringing guys off the street, essentially, to play safety for them. So, yes, Peyton did what he had to do towards the end of the game. We were able to get the win. He was unable to scheme us into scoring points when we got the ball in plus field position most of the game. But our margin for error isn't going to get any better until we can establish a run, start getting 4 to 5 yards per carry, get ahead of the sticks, be able to get play action pass and bootlegs into the schema, and to be able to make defenses play us honest. So
yeah, and
you bring up an interesting point.
We're going to be struggling until that happens.
Well, so one thing I also was going to say is this has kind of been a league-wide thing. Like, defenses pretty much across the NFL have been trying their hardest to take away the big plays and take away all of that deep work as much as they can. So you've kind of seen a lot of the shorter stuff. Like, and honestly, I think that's Vic Fangio's fault when he was our head coach and what he did against the Chiefs. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that too. Like that all that blitz when that took us out of field goal range, and then they did it again. Like that was one, a great play by us, but two, also they killed themselves with it. Gave them enough rope and they hung themselves with it. And then the pass interference that people say wasn't pass interference, like because it was underthrown, that was the most pass interference. That was textbook pass interference. But anyway, I digress. But no, I agree. Like they had a good defensive game plan, and has kind of been the defensive game plan of most of the NFL for pretty much the entire season. Like scoring is very down league wide anyway. And you can still try to do the aggressive plays as more, but then you get what Josh Allen just did, where you throw a lot of picks. So again, I think Russ played well, and I just want to see, like, I just feel like this offense could literally just explode if the margins for error weren't as small as they are. And maybe, yeah, part of that could be like running the ball more. It just felt like there were almost no designed quick passes. There were some, but that weren't just a dump off to a running back. Maybe I'm wrong. Did that feel like that way to you guys? That's what it felt like to me.
Well, outside of the Cortland Sutton play.
Outside of the Cortland Sutton one is why I said
that wasn't as quick as it should have been.
I'd
like to say that
fumbled, yeah.
That defensive play call was so bad it got their offensive coordinator fired. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Right. That was funny.
You know,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what, Matty, when you talked about, you know, leading into the running game and everything, we have to, you know, I'm going to use probably the term that, you know, that has been going around, you know, Denver Broncos podcast lately, and that is, you know, giving his flowers. But we have to do it again. And like, we have to give Sean Payton, we have to give Javonte Williams credit, because now this is the second straight week where he has had 20 carries or more against the Kansas City Chiefs and against the Buffalo Bills. He had 20 carries. And for Sean Payton, you know, Clayton did say it in the comment that, like, even if it seemed like early on it wasn't working, it was, because by the time the game was getting done, they needed to still establish that running game. Because let me tell you, it is hard. It is so hard for coaches, because like they get in their own head sometimes. I mean, we've all seen it with some of our other favorite teams. They get in their own head to where they abandon the run, right? They abandon the run when they don't need to, right? It's one of the reasons why when coordinators get in their own head of like, why are you running the ball on a third and on a 3rd and 2 or whatever, when you've been passing the whole game, or, you know, or why are you passing, you know, on a 3rd and 2 when you've been running so successfully that entire drive, right? So they get in their own head. And the fact that Sean Payton and Lombardi, and just the willingness to put your head down and just consistently run the Buffalo Bills defense in the ground, I think proved to be successful, because as you saw the game progress with Javonte, it was pretty clear. And again, kudos to Javonte, that he is really proving to be a pretty darn good back right now again, and what we've seen in years past, because he's decisive in his runs. He's running tough, physical, which when you are trying to establish, you know, winning games and streaking, right, as we said earlier, the best thing you can possibly do to put yourself in ideal playoff winning situations is establish running the football. When you are a running football team, we've seen this historically, when you are a running football team and you're hunting for a playoff spot, that's one of the best things you can ever ask for as you're winding down, is that you can be a really solid running football team, because you have a greater chance at possibly winning those games. And so I think it'll definitely benefit them in the long run. Do I think it's going to result in some wins? I don't know that answer. They are in some very favorable situations, though, down the stretch, where they can continue this trend and win even more games and possibly get in to the playoffs.
Turns out Joe Burrow, he hurt his hand. He's probably not coming back in. He's got a headset, not a helmet for the second half. For those of you that are watching this live. So speaking of fighting for a playoff spot, the Bengals are one of those teams that we're going to be fighting for with the wild card, especially if they lose tonight. It'll look like that.
Yeah,
Ravens will be in the driver's seat
by the
day.
But yeah, no, I mean, I do think Javonte Williams played really well, and I said this on the last episode. The more he's healthy, he's getting, and the more he's healthy at this point. The more I'd say he trusts his ability to cut in that knee, the better he's just going to get. I do think we need to do a bit more in the passing game beyond just like the dump off to maybe have some lighter boxes for him to run through.
I agree.
But I mean, we'll see what happens. We have the Vikings. I think would be an interesting test. And I know obviously we're not necessarily to that part in the show yet, but when we get there, I have some. There's just some things about that game that intrigue me. But talking about the playoffs real quick, I mean, we're one game out of the playoffs, pretty much. It's like that's where it's at. And right now, I think the Bills are not in the playoffs after that loss. If I might be wrong, but that's wild. How the turntables, man.
Yeah.
We trade just to Von Miller and just get him in the playoffs
so he could compete.
Totally.
The fun thing is that we haven't mentioned yet. I don't think enough people are mentioning it. Not a sexy stat line, but 9 carries for 30 yards for Russell Wilson. His willingness to take off and run this year is night and day compared to what it was last year. I know he's a little slimmer. He's not taking hits when he's running. He's getting down. He's protecting himself, which good on him. That game against Kansas City where he got wrecked last year and got hurt.
I believe he would have won that game if he didn't get injured.
Still looms. I agree with that. But even though it's not necessarily for first downs all the time, field position matters. Saving every little bit of yardage that we can matters. We could talk about Riley Dixon's inability to kick inside the 10 in a little bit if you want to. But Russell Wilson, a good job on taking what the defense is giving you and being willing to use your legs, because without him taking off earlier in the game, those 2 critical dump offs to Samaje Perine might not happen. The defense was hyper aware and they were actually spying Russ, and it was a 2-for-1 scenario where it was like, okay, you cover Perine, Russ runs. They decided to go at Russ, and Perine was able to get loose. So everything we did up to that point set up those critical plays because Russell Wilson was willing to take what the defense gave him with his arm and his legs.
Samaje Perine,
good job for him.
Yeah, Samaje Perine is the guy I wanted to actually give a game ball to as well in that game because he was our second leading receiver, tied with Jerry Jeudy. But Samaje Perine showed up and he had a good game. He had some of those key catches. He was more in the catching game than anything else in the backfield, which he kind of was weirdly like a little bit of he only had 1 carry on the actual ground, but he was sort of playing the Alvin Kamara role for Sean Payton a little bit as Samaje Perine, who's like actually, I'm curious to know this. Alvin Kamara is.
You're not. Are you looking up?
215 pounds.
Yeah, 215. Perine's like 225.
Perine is 236.
But
he doesn't look like he moves really well for 236 pounds.
But the thing is, like, that's the thing we had been beating like a drum with Samaje Perine when we signed him. Is I think that people really undervalued how good of a signing he really was at the time.
He's a fantastic pass blocker,
and I think that. Yeah, he may not be getting the yardage and the carries between the tackles, but he is producing out of the backfield, which we said even...
Who said Samaje Perine was going to be good?
Yeah, we said he was going to be a viable option out of the backfield. We did say that. We said that he was going to be that viable option, and he has been. And it's that OU DNA. Something about the OU DNA with this Bronco team that has really just been jump-starting this team and just continuing to lay the foundation for Sean Payton. I mean, Nick Bonito's balling out of his mind. Samaje Perine is playing well. Oh, and
Marvin Mims is the best return man since like the 70s.
that's the other thing I was going to say is that
Mims is fucking insane.
If we're gonna give a guy a big shout out now, he definitely needs to be involved in the passing game, and this is the case where he actually may be getting the opportunities and the snaps on pass plays where it actually looked like, if you guys get a chance to watch the all 22 view, but the play that looked like a miscommunication where I think Russ was doing a play action, but it was like a toss play action, and it looked like it was a shot play. It was a shot play to Marvin Mims on that, but it was just a complete miscommunication from Russ and maybe it was Samaje or Javonte. It may have been Samaje, but it looked like that was a deep shot, a design play for Marvin, but obviously it didn't get the chance to work. But Marvin Mims, I tell you, if there is something that people are not talking enough about within that game, it is truly how good he is in the special teams area, and in particular the punt returns and the kickoff return game. But obviously the punt returns. That punt return before taking the drive, before taking the lead, needs to be talked about a lot, because he put that team on a 20 plus yard return near midfield, and they were finally able to put forward and get the I believe it was the passing touchdown to Javonte on the really nice call in the red zone. But Marvin Mims, he is I definitely think we were giving a lot of credit to Montreal Washington in his rookie year, but then he really took a step back in his sophomore year, as we know, and just couldn't move the needle within the offense. But Marvin Mims is actually doing even more than what Montreal Washington was doing last year, and again, or his rookie year. And Washington was good his rookie year as a returner, but Mims is just absolutely electric with the ball in his hands on returning.
You're muted.
Brandon, I mean, there's some days I was going to say there's some days I really enjoy the fact that you're muted, but I really wanted to hear what you say.
Bro, I know I was muted. You don't have to keep talking about it. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, so I accidentally hit the shortcut to make myself muted. Didn't realize it.
Nice excuse. But continue.
Obviously, Marvin Mims is fantastic in the return game, which is awesome, and we're trying to kind of have more shots to him, which makes sense. Like the deep shots is kind of like his thing. I would like to see more, like us trying to use him more in fuck. I would like to see us use him more in like the quick game.
Yeah.
Because I hate that the only two times you see us try to throw to him is not even throw to him, use him on offenses. You do the end around or you do the deep shot. And you can't really do as many deep shots now, and the end arounds pretty much never work. Why can't we just do a really quick out, just like 3-step drop, throw it to him? Just come on, please. I'm begging you.
When I was gonna say, or even and Matty has seen this countless times with Oklahoma, but just a simple slant route, they did it with Cortland Sutton where he got his bell rung, but he when they throw it over, just do a timing slant route.
John Payton loves the slant route.
Yeah, so do a timing slant route with Russ, with Marvin. But the thing is, let's get creative on that. Let's not just use Marvin Mims on that. Let's not just use Cortland Sutton on that. Let's use Jerry Jeudy. Let's use all your weapons at your disposal, and I think that also will help make you a better offense. So, I mean, use everything that's at your disposal, not just Cortland Sutton, and just kind of leave it at Cortland Sutton or just leave it at Jerry Jeudy. Let's get some variety in there.
I love Marvin Mims, and I want to see him do work. I know he can play a lot bigger than his frame, but come on, we gotta get Jerry Jeudy more than 3 targets. We have to manufacture more than 3 targets for him. When we needed it, it was like 3rd down and 6, or not 6, like 3rd and 12 or something.
Yeah, it was late. It was 3rd and super long. Yeah.
And
exactly
he was lined up on the right side and just found a little pocket in that zone before the safety could come in and close the gap.
Yeah, that was good.
Huge play.
Although
he caught it, turned right upfield, and
he is injured now, unfortunately, with the hip injury that he just
with the hip limited today.
He wasn't
on the injury report yesterday, and he's limited today.
Yeah. which sucks. But no, I agree. I mean, like, same thing, Jerry Jeudy. Like, it still seems to me like they're trying to force feed Courtland Sutton, which I don't completely disagree with it, but I kind of do, because I mean, he's been good. He's having a good year.
He's your red zone threat right now.
He's the red zone guy. Yeah, he's definitely the red zone guy. And it works, like it's been working, but I just feel like there's just, and like, maybe this is just me being greedy, because like we won 3 in a row where we beat the Chiefs, love it. We beat the Bills, love it. I just feel like there's so much more meat on the bone.
There is
in this offense that's like not even that hard to get. And maybe it's just, you know what? I'm too impatient. It takes a little bit. You have a new coach coming in. It's not going to be you flip a switch and it's immediately better. Maybe it just takes some time to build up. Maybe you get through a few more games here. We get closer to the back quarter of the season. You start to see that pick up more. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I would love that. I just like, again, I like, we're winning. It's working. I just feel like there's got to be something there we can do to get more Jerry Jeudy yards, get more Marvin Mims usage, and we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, I think here's the case where if you're actually being completely honest with me, the cover 0 play where it was pass interference, if you look it up in the dictionary, it actually is pass interference. But on that play, Jerry Jeudy just beat his man, like he beat Johnson bad. I mean, he sent him to the outer realm. Like he sent him to the shadow realm.
He banished him to the shadow realm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, but if Russ actually hits that, like that might actually have been a touchdown.
To be fair, Russ was also like under pressure instantly.
I know. But part of me also, like, the thought process of my head made it seem like they actually knew cover 0 was happening, because, they sent it before. It almost felt like they were calling not a play to feed Jerry Jeudy. They were calling a pass interference penalty offensive play call. Like that's kind of what it was almost.
Oh, like a bait. Yeah.
Like a bait. Exactly.
Oh, it looked like it was.
With how smart these coordinators are and these situations.
To be fair,
a buddy of mine who's, go ahead.
To be fair. Russ did not have the ability to like step into that throw and lead Jeudy. It was more one of those, just like throw it up there and give the guy a chance, because like he's got one-on-one coverage, and he's proven that he can go put somebody on a poster. He can moss somebody. Asked to hear that.
Doesn't do it often, but I mean, he does do it
when he gets the opportunity. So. And it was in the middle of the field, right? It was, I think we ran verticals. I think they were all verticals on that play. And just throwing it in the middle of the field was the best chance for success. Just so happens that one of the opportunities for success is the underthrow with the defensive back not ready for it. But like, people say that we manufactured that just to get the deep defensive pass interference. And while I don't disagree that was an option, I will say that Russ did not have the opportunity to really launch that thing the way he wanted to. Yeah. If he wanted, if he could have, like, that thing would have been in the end zone, and Jeudy is like, dusting his guy.
I don't think that was like the sole purpose of the play. I just feel like they called that play also with the intention of knowing that like it had a higher probability of getting a defensive pass interference. That's all I'm saying. Like they were just smart about it. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. All right. Before we dive into the Minnesota Vikings game, we have to give the credit again to the Denver Broncos defense and stopping Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills offense. I mean, again, like, if you're looking at it from the side of, this is a team, we said it last week, we said it so many weeks prior, like in this winning streak. This is a team that had a 70-point outing against the Miami Dolphins, and now they're the number 1 scoring defense since week 7. Like, the turnaround is absolutely insane. And I obviously know that Josh Allen is not having his best year. Like, let's be honest. He's not having his best year. That said, though, he's still a good quarterback, and a good quarterback should expose the weaknesses of your defense. Well, the defense is playing at such a high clip now. You're winning the turnover battle. You're getting the pressures. The sacks never really came against Allen, but the pressure was there to get in Allen's face, and he was making really bad decisions with the football. Frankly, what it almost reminded me of, and maybe this is the case, and I've not watched many Buffalo Bills games this year, but it really feels like you're looking at the Josh Allen that some teams were afraid of taking out of Wyoming. I mean, the guy has, like I said it before, but like when he was streaky and he was on, he's a dominant quarterback. But when he's off his game, he's turnover prone. He plays hero ball too much. I mean, the guy needs to stop playing that kind of hero ball, and maybe it was a good thing that they moved on from Ken Dorsey. I don't know. Frankly, I think it was just they needed a scapegoat, and if people think that type of move, firing Ken Dorsey, is going to absolve them from the Sean McDermott rumors and the hot seat that they're going to be having on him, they're sadly mistaken, because McDermott is still on the hot seat. And frankly, because of the season, they could fire McDermott. So I think that, like, Josh Allen has got a problem right now, but you still have to give, the credit where credit is due, and that is Vance Joseph and that defense. And of course, Jaquan McMillian, according to Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. But we know that by the end of this upcoming season, McMillan will be making McMillions in the offseason.
It's almost like someone said, all those things would happen on the last show.
We even said after the Chargers game. I mean,
oh no, I'm talking about the hero ball and the interceptions and who gets picks. But no, I mean, I agree. Like that's just, I don't know what the Bills do, man, but they got a problem, and I don't know how they fix this. I don't know how they fix it.
Josh Allen problem too.
It's a Josh Allen problem, but it's also Josh Allen is kind of the solution. So it's like,
yeah,
I am genuinely baffled, and I am glad that I am not in any capacity on that team where I have to figure out the answer to that, because that would keep me up at night. It's okay. We won. We're good.
What has two thumbs and was wrong about wanting to fire Joseph?
Everyone in Broncos country.
Probably everybody in Broncos country,
this
right?
Guy.
Yeah.
I can definitely admit it, right? I can admit when I'm wrong. But to some extent, it seems like the defense is now playing what Joseph wants them to play like, and we're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
That's right.
We're not trying to make this the Fangio defense with Joseph calling the shots. This is now evolved into Joseph is doing what he wants to do and putting guys where he wants to put them. And you're seeing, look, we're still prone to give up a big play or two. You saw the busted coverage to Kincaid,
right?
Where they lined up stacked on the right, and then we bit on the post and left the wheel route open. It's just Kincaid was there. Things happen still. We're not perfect, but dadgum, number one scoring defense since week 7. We've played Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs twice. We've played Love once, and they have talent on that offense. They haven't looked great always, but they can move the ball. And then Josh Allen on the road in primetime. And Josh Allen typically has played pretty all right on primetime games. So, it's not like we've been knocking out, the Tommy DeVitos of the world or Danny DeVito or whatever his name is, right?
And we're about to play Josh Dobbs, PJ Walker, and Aiden O'Connell and Mac Jones.
Let's freaking Bailey go. Of course,
Zappy.
CJ Stroud's going to be in there too.
Yeah.
Right.
But not compared to
that won't be fun.
The gauntlet we just faced.
Right.
But I think the thing is, and Clayton, I definitely get what you're saying. I think we all expected the team to play better, but I think anyone that expected the number one scoring defense, to bring that up again, the number one scoring defense and a top 5 defense after the Miami game, and play so well against Kansas City, play well against the Packers, but it's really the Chiefs and Bills game that really started all. I think you're kind of kidding yourselves a little bit because like you didn't really expect that, especially like of all things, especially the Bills. And we said earlier, like the offense was great. The Bills offense is great despite the Allen problems right now. Cause like we saw like at times, like in this game when the Broncos were playing them, like, and I'll be honest, like this was the one game between the Chiefs game and the Bills game where I actually had legitimate fear we were going to lose that game because we know the Bills are that quick strike offense. And it was the one time they took the lead. In the Chiefs game, as we said, the Broncos held the lead for the entire game. The Chiefs never had the lead. And there was that one instance where the Bills did take that lead, and then that's when the Broncos, went down and kicked a field goal. But like at that moment when the Bills took the lead, Matty knows this. Matty was in there in our predominantly orange chat. I mean, like there were people that were like even speculating, like, dude, is this game over now that the Bills took the lead? So like there was like one point, like when they took the lead, it was like, man, is this really going to happen now? Like, is this really going to happen?
It felt like the game was over when James Cook takes the ball on the left side, and Simmons perfectly times the swat, and the ball, it looked like Cook just dribbled it to himself and then kept going. He didn't even have to break stride, which I've been watching football for a long time. I don't think I have ever quite seen that.
Dude, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
The probability of the ball coming out of his hands and bouncing in such a way that he was able to recover it without breaking stride has to be significantly less, like a fraction of the percentage that it was that Cortland Sutton would convert that touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Which was
just like the script writers drew it up, man.
It was like an NBA dribble, right, man? Like it was like an NBA dribble.
It was ridiculous. Like, and he was on a fast break and he didn't even have to break stride.
Yeah.
So that
they had to rehearse that like 400 times.
Right, to get the script right.
Yeah.
Like when that happened, I was like, okay, we didn't take advantage enough. They're going to go down and score, and we're going to be screwed. And they did score. We weren't screwed because they can't count. But it worked out. It worked out the way that they wanted it to by pounding the rock and giving it to Cook. We have a lot of work to do in the way of getting our defensive rush efficiency up, because they were getting 7 yards a pop on the ground. And I got to give Dorsey his flowers. Like, he stuck with the running game even when they were down and 5 minutes to go. He still, they had to get a touchdown. He still ran the ball right down the field. Even Josh Allen's call or touchdown was a run. So good on them for that. He got fired, of course, but like I thought at that point, okay, our margin for error is gone. Now they're getting the literal lucky bounces, and that's all she wrote.
Let me just apologize in advance here to Mike Cormellini, who's listening to this probably, and I will not say the term that shall not be said that both of my co-hosts have said so far on this podcast.
It's been a popular theme, this week.
I know, but I'm sure he's heard it like 80 times.
Oh yeah, his tweet was funny about it.
That was literally one of the craziest things I've ever seen. That Cook fumbled to himself. Damn.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, it's all love, Clayton. Yeah. Of course. All right, guys. The Minnesota Vikings game. And this is all tied with this because playoff hunting. Because are the Denver Broncos with this game, they're at an 18% chance, obviously, of making the playoffs now, which is low, right? I mean, because it's low. But to quote Dumb and Dumber and Jim Carrey and Miss Samsonite, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Hey, man, what did you think it was when we were in the first 6 weeks of the season? Negative 20%?
It was the same percentage as that Cortland Sutton touchdown catch to the Buffalo Bills.
I think it was actually less than that after the first 6, right? It was we were 1-5. Like, yep. That's
probably
crazy.
0.000001. So I'll take it.
And the next thing you know.
Also, let me just, before we move on to the Vikings game, Quinn fucking Miners, dude.
Oh my gosh. The Broncos have a legitimate.
I'm just gonna curse all episode. Fair warning. Yeah. For people that are just listening to this, you have to watch this show live. That's all I'm gonna say. Dude, pancakes were served, man. Pancakes were served. Breakfast for dinner. Let's go.
You won't see that on Matty's OnlyFans. One, because actually he doesn't have an OnlyFans. So
as far as we know.
So like as far as we know. And
Stop being poor.
Josh, if you are watching this episode and you're listening right now, you have to clip that. I'm sorry, but you have to clip that little belly roll. And we're gonna crop it, and that is going to be a Matty Mulls staple.
Wait, can you make that your profile picture?
Oh my gosh. The funniest thing is it would fit because he's wearing the OKC. He's rubbing his belly. Like it would fit. Let's get giddy with it. All right.
God.
All right. So obviously the Broncos are going to face the Vikings. There is a chance that Justin Jefferson, maybe the greatest wide receiver we've ever seen since Jerry Rice, is going to be playing in this game. But we all know that when you are certain of a corner that you have, there's at least a chance that he may not actually see the amount of targets that he feels like he's going to have. Plus, we know that he's returning from injury, so maybe there's some load management going on with Justin Jefferson coming back from injury. And, of course, let's not discount the fact that they also have Jordan Addison. There is something to be said about this wide receiving core, not Quentin Johnson, but Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison are playing really, really well. And, of course, Tank Dell in Houston as well. Trey Palmer certainly deserves some love down there in Tampa. He's clearly solidified himself as wide receiver 3 and maybe wide receiver 2 to a certain extent, depending on the games that he plays and everything. But, yeah, the rookie draft classes have been quite impressive for the wide receivers. But Jordan Addison is going to be in definitely a tough one. And I tell you, if there is one thing that I would like to see, and I don't know if you'll see this in the Minnesota Vikings game, we have to have a Damari Mathis discussion. And when I'm saying a Damari Mathis discussion, I'm saying a Mathis discussion that involves him showing up on the inactive report. Like, I know that is going to, that may sound like ill will for a player, but right now he's a liability.
So sad.
He may be playing only 4 snaps, but there was a third down conversion that he gave up like early in that game. He was 3rd and 16 against the Bills, and that was his guy that he was covering, and the Bills got it on like 19 yards or something.
Khalil Shakir, I think. Was that the Shakir play?
He was like Gabe Davis or Shakir. But I mean, yeah, we have to have a conversation about that. I mean, he's obviously been demoted. There's no question about it. But there needs to be a question of, are you better with Riley Moss now getting that playing time, over Damari Mathis, or are you still comfortable with that fact of Damari Mathis playing at least little, or do you guys feel like Tremont Smith and Riley Moss are earning that much more credit with what they're doing on special teams to earn that rep and taking it away from Damari? It's a worthwhile conversation now with this Minnesota Vikings game coming up.
I think Riley Moss is in the doghouse or has an injury or something because he's barely playing snaps on defense.
I don't think it's about being in the doghouse. I think it's just they're really wanting to redshirt guys like J.L. Skinner and Moss, I think, this year.
You might not have a choice. But I mean, Moreau is playing pretty well for sure. But I mean, they might have to.
Yeah. So the Vikings game, it does worry you, obviously. For starters, Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator. Who knows the amount of looks that they're going to be given? We mentioned his name earlier. We mentioned about the defense. Matty mentioned it, earlier. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. The last time that I think the Broncos faced a Brian Flores coach defense was the Miami Dolphins, and they had that really fascinating, fun amoeba look with the Dolphins, where everybody was just. It almost felt like a NASCAR package, like a very fast NASCAR package with the way that he was operating that. So expect some really heavy blitzes from Flowers against the Denver Broncos. And I've said it before, of course, we've all said this before, but it's like, don't expect the Broncos to change their offense, especially going up against the Minnesota Vikings and a really heavy blitz oriented team. So the passes out of the backfield, 2 backs and 2 running backs, I mean, like, that is going to stay. And I think that maybe that it looked weird when they did it, and maybe that's one of the reasons why it was so funky, and maybe they didn't really coach this all that much maybe during the week. But the Courtland Sutton play, maybe that's why they're incorporating a wide receiver out of the backfield a little bit more, is so that they can have those creative looks. But the thing is, like, I'm not even sure Courtland Sutton is the right wide receiver for something like that. Do it to like Marvin Mims, do it to guys like Jerry Jeudy. And obviously, more importantly, don't tip your hand possibly when you're doing it.
Well, a couple of things on that. One, I think that Jerry Jeudy or Marvin Mims in that scenario would be awful, because Sutton was required to block initially. And I think that it looked weird because I think it was supposed to be an initial chip
really slow,
and then get out, a chip and release. And he ended up getting absorbed because there was nobody to hand off to. They had numbers on that side of the field. We were just, it was all jacked up from the jump. So yeah, there's that. It would be really nice against an aggressive defense that likes to have their linebackers take a step forward, to be able to have a tight end that can go up a seam and get in a zone and make them pay a little bit in the middle of the field.
Haven't heard much about
we have no threat. We have nothing in the way of a tight end threat. So we also, now granted, there were times in New Orleans where the tight end wasn't really, showcased, but we have nothing. Like, I can go out. I'm scoring as many fantasy points, right, as like the Broncos tight ends are. Like, they're not even getting dump offs right now, right? It would be nice to have something to keep them honest. Maybe keep the middle backer there. Maybe the safety's got to worry about it before they get out into other assignments. Like, I don't know, just something to give a little complexity. I think that might be why they brought the wide receiver into the backfield, just to give that linebacking core something else to look at.
Yeah.
But man, like, it's pretty tough sledding. I will say that, we aren't calling a lot of plays to have to keep guys in to protect our tackles. Tackles are holding their own a little bit better than they were earlier in the season. They're still getting a few penalties here and there, but when the tackles aren't having to be babysat, that should free other guys up to be able to do things. We just have nobody to put in that role. And on the other side, our biggest limitation defensively is stopping the run, which is also the Vikings' limitation offensively. So it's weakness on weakness there if Dobbs isn't using his legs. I think Dobbs is going to be more willing to tuck it and run than what Josh Allen was. So that's going to be the interesting wrinkle to watch this game versus maybe even against Mahomes and Allen and Love, for that matter. Just because Dobbs, he seems like an initial read, maybe gets to a second, and then he's trying to bail or he's trying to ad-lib. So interesting there. Do you guys think that we spy him? Right. Do you think that we put a spy on Dobbs to limit that? Or do you think that we play straight up and play a little more zone than man?
Go ahead, Brandon.
That's a good question. I haven't really watched a lot of Josh Dobbs, to be honest. I don't know really what his tendencies are. Like, I know he likes to definitely run. I think you have to spy him at least a little bit because he's pretty athletic. But I think if you take away his ability to pass, like, I don't think he can just beat you with his legs. So I can kind of see the argument for both. My biggest concern, I think, with him more is going to be getting pressure to him because we're going to have to getting pressure on him because we're going to have to go against Darisaw, who is absolutely crushing it in pass protection right now. Like, I don't know what we do there, but he's going to be well protected. So it'll be interesting to see like kind of how that plans out. But I do think you kind of have to do something where you can kind of take away his ability to run a little bit and respect that. But again, and I also think you can just take away everything else and make him run. And I don't think can he beat you with only that? Maybe, but I think that's a lower probability.
And I think if there is a trend right now, if there is a trend that what we've seen the last couple weeks with Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Matty's going to love this. It's actually been Nick Bonito that has actually played the QB spy role. So they've actually been
and Jaquan McMillan.
On certain situations in certain plays, yeah. But I think that the predominant QB spy has been Nick Bonito, which is funny because I have been clamoring for a guy like Drew Sanders, but I think again, I'm gonna get hated for this, obviously with my fandom and everything, but I hate to use this as an example again and bring him up again. And Matty knows this when they played him. This is not the first time Nick Bonito has actually played a QB spy either. If you go back and you actually watch the game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers and Oklahoma Sooners, Nick Bonito was the player that was spying Adrian Martinez the entire game. And he was really effective doing it for nearly the entire game. So, it's not like he's new to it. It's not like he's, it's like an uncommon territory. So this is something that Bonito has definitely done before in terms of being a QB spy. So I think allowing these types of situations to put your teams in really a defense and advantageous situations of being a QB spy like that would help a guy like Nick Bonito. So maybe using him a little bit more in those QB spy roles, for a guy like Josh Dobbs or, something like that. But I also think that too, there's times you could see the Broncos play some single high because even though it is Josh Dobbs, Dobbs is still a quarterback with where he's at in his career that you would rather him beat you through the air than his legs. And I think that because especially into the sense of he's definitely played really well throwing the ball through the air, and he's definitely beaten some teams with that. But I think that at some point, and I'm not trying to say that this is going to be the game where the Cinderella story is going to end. But I think that we're going to be at that point where that Cinderella story, that Lynn Sanity, the Jeremy Lin story, is going to end up coming to an end, I think, at some point with Joshua Dobbs.
So do you think he can just I know I just said that the probability of him just beating you straight up with his legs, I think is pretty low. Do you think it's higher? Do you think he can, if you take away the pass, do you think that he can just beat you straight up on the ground?
I don't know. Because the thing I'm also putting into consideration is Kevin O'Connell is a really smart offensive mind. And so while I say all that, I think there's certainly
go ahead.
I certainly think there's a possibility that there will be some creative play action wrinkles into that.
Because the reason I say that, the game is in Denver. Altitude plays a factor here. Mm-hmm. And I know he's still a professional athlete, but he's not a machine.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that if you make somebody one-dimensional, if you make somebody who is, if you had 100 skill points to give to him, probably 60 of it so far would be his running ability, and the 40% would be the pass, right? If you had to line it up a certain way. So his strength is running the football, but anytime you can make somebody like that one-dimensional, eventually things are going to catch up to them. And we can let him run as long as we hit him and he doesn't just get to slide and doesn't have to pay for running the football on us. If he turns into a running back and he has to hold on to the ball and he's getting pounded all game, that won't be sustainable. And then he'll just get lazy by the end of the game and be like the jump shooter who's just like shooting threes at the end of the game late in basketball because they're tired, they're worn out, and they're trying to just manufacture something the easiest way possible. I mean, we saw it with Cam Newton in Super Bowl 50. You pop the guy, and eventually he's not running anymore in the fourth.
It's the psyche. I mean, sports psychology is a big deal. People don't talk about it enough, but sports psychology is a big deal just in any sport.
But if you let the guy get in the open field and he's able to slide, 8 yards here, 13 yards there, 6 yards there, untouched, then that's no bueno. We can't allow that. We can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So the other reason I say that is I believe this season Josh Dobbs has the most fumbles in the NFL. Yes, he has 11. So that's the other reason. I don't know. I agree. I think we're talking about the same thing. You have to make him one-dimensional. Yeah. I think we're just talking about the different ways you can make him one-dimensional. And I do agree, making him run more plays into his strength, but he's going to wear down and he's going to fumble the ball.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And it goes
I'm not the defensive coordinator, so I don't have to make this decision.
Yeah, thankfully we don't have to make that decision. If we were and we were really smart, we would be up in the booth with all the other defensive coaches. So make millions.
The strength of our defense though is playmakers in the secondary and pass rushers.
Yeah.
Right. So if you stop his ability to run early and get things going on the ground early, and you've established a spy early, that forces him to use his arm, which plays more into what we want to do. They're going to try to give Madison his carries early.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to average 3.2 yards per carry early on, and they're not going to be able to convert on third down. And it's going to get ugly for them trying to run the football traditionally. We just can't let them manufacture those yards on the ground early with the quarterback where they have the numbers advantage. So having him play into what we want, I think would help us out more. And he could fumble the ball, but I think that's a less reliable stat.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not saying I'm just saying
quarterback pressures and interceptions. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think Kareem Jackson coming back is going to be huge.
Yeah. Who knows about PJ Locke? Who knows about PJ Locke and his status?
He did not practice today, right?
Yeah. And actually, speaking of an injury report, I know Matty mentioned this, but Ben Powers popped up also on the injury report. Don't know what's the status of him. Yeah. And if he can't play, regardless of who you're playing, you're probably talking about either Luke Wattenberg moving over to guard or John Case, favorite person in the world, Quinn Bailey, possibly being the left guard. Also, of course, speaking of the guards, this is a Dalton Risner reunion. He's coming to play the Denver Broncos for the first time in his career. So in back-to-back weeks, you have a player that is basically playing the team that he grew up with once again. So it'll be a fun one. NFL picks, we should start off the bat because obviously there was a change in schedule this week. And recording this on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday, so we didn't get a chance to truly give our Thursday night pick. And of course, with 7:30, the game was already going on. But before we jump, into the other games, why don't you guys just go ahead and just give what your selection was, and no cheating because the game is already going on. But what was your actual pick going into the game?
Matty, you want to go first?
My pick was Baltimore coming off that. Both teams coming off losses. Baltimore's obviously, I said they'd be the 1 seed. Them beating Cincinnati in this game is a huge step towards that. So it's kind of me doubling down on what I said before the season started. I thought that before Burrow's hand thing came out, there was rumblings about that earlier today, and then it was aggravated. But yeah, Baltimore.
I actually also thought the Baltimore was going to win this game. It's also in Baltimore. They're just unstoppable.
I had Baltimore as well. I felt like Baltimore was more devastating than the Bengals loss, which is saying a lot. But I just felt like, the Ravens, they did not deserve to lose that game. Like the way
and they played hard against a top 5 defense.
Right.
And the Bengals are not.
3 separate times they had double-digit leads against the Browns and couldn't pay it off.
Yeah.
So
they pissed that Ravens team. You don't want to fight or play an angry Ravens team or fight them either.
If they look, and there's a lot of sneaky games that the Broncos could possibly get a loss to. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting obviously doesn't really move the needle much for us. He was a good college prospect. But the reason why the Browns would steal a win against the Broncos is because of that defense. Is because
they confirmed that it's DTR that's starting?
Yeah, it is DTR starting this week.
Oh, damn.
So it is the 6-3. So we'll start. I'm curious why the Broncos are. We'll end with the Broncos, considering it's a Sunday night game into Monday. But and we won't forget this time. And if we do forget, put in the chat that Cameron, Brandon, and Matty were idiots and they forgot about predicting the Denver Broncos and Vikings game, and therefore we won't forget about it. So again, we will not forget about the Broncos and Vikings game. We won't forget it. Steelers and Browns. So speaking of the AFC North, the Steelers and Browns, the 6-3 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 6-3 Cleveland Browns. Boy, they need to build Mike Tomlin a statue, like at this point in his career. We said it last week, but they need a statue.
The Browns are going to outgain the Steelers.
They can't keep getting away with this.
The Browns are going to outgain the Steelers by 80 yards, and it's still not going to matter. The Steelers are going to win.
I feel like the way things
happens every week.
What are you going to go with, Brandon?
I just said probably. Yeah. I mean, it's Pittsburgh.
I feel like now it's much more of a winning record, but I feel like I'm watching almost like the Nebraska Cornhuskers with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like their defense is playing really well, but the whole reason why they're 6-3 is because of coaching. The whole reason why the Nebraska Cornhuskers are one game away from a bowl is because of Matt Rule. That's the only reason they're one win away from getting into a bowl.
We're gonna see the Steelers in the playoffs, aren't we? Like they're gonna fuck around and make the playoffs.
So
this is ridiculous.
I say Steelers, which is crazy because they will at that point be 2 wins away from another winning record for Tomlin.
Yep. Chicago at Detroit. I mean, it's the Lions. Do we even have to talk about this game? I mean, okay. Justin Fields might be back. It's still the Lions.
And it's at home. It's in the dome. We know that Jared Goff is the Colorado Rockies quarterback of the NFL.
Lions, insane. But they don't cover 7.5.
Anything else to say about the game?
No, I say Lions. Yeah, I say Lions.
Chargers at Green Bay.
I'm gonna go Chargers. I think they get a win. It was a really good game against the Lions, with the little fans of Charger fans that were there to witness that game. By the way, Dan Campbell and Brian Johnson have big brass ones for going forward on that 4th down.
Yeah. I think I have to go with the Chargers.
I'm going Green Bay at home.
Oh, wow. I mean, I couldn't rule it out. The Chargers could charge it away. 100%.
All right.
Las Vegas at Miami. Oh, boy.
Miami.
My AFC East victory lap.
Yeah, Pierce is going to get his loss.
13.5 is not enough.
That's
I think Miami wins by 20 or more.
And they might even get this Devon A-Chain back.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Start all of your Miami. But even I don't care. Start Raheem Mostert.
Yeah.
Still.
Uh,
Giants at Washington. Oh my God. Sam Howell, actually. Hold on. Sam Howell, low key, pretty okay.
Leads the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah. And, Tommy DeVito. DeVito. Yes,
Saturday Night Fever. Yeah, Washington.
Washington.
Let's see. The Cowboys and the Panthers. Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys. Now we're getting into the no shit picks.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Yeah, easily Cowboys. Not even close. Titans at Jacksonville. Jacksonville just got their
division game
ass handed to them by the 49ers.
Yeah, division
after
game.
winning 5 in a row.
I think it's Jacksonville, though.
I think Jacksonville comes back and punches Tennessee in the mouth.
Trevor Lawrence, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns
It
against Tennessee's poor secondary.
Pass funnel
back on Jacksonville.
Arizona at Houston. Kyler Murray kind of back a little bit.
He's all the way back.
I think this will be a fun game. I actually think this will be a fun game.
I think it's Houston, but I'll tell you right now, Kyler Murray, with the way he's playing right now, will impact the draft stock if they get some wins.
Oh, yeah.
So, with the way he's playing. So,
maybe as an FU on the way out of town.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think I have to go CJ Stroud. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals actually somehow win that, but I do think it's the Texans. I think that'll be a fun game.
It'll be super fun.
That actually might be the most fun game of the 11 o'clock slot because the Miami game is just going to be one-sided.
Yeah.
Cool.
Houston wins, but
yeah.
Bucks and 49ers.
This one's interesting.
Niners.
I think I have to go with the Niners. It's in San Francisco.
Niners are 11.5-point favorites.
Yeah. You got Debo back.
I don't think that Tampa could even keep it that close, and that's not an indictment on Baker Mayfield. That's just San Francisco when they're healthy, they're just tough. And Tampa's got a poor secondary.
I do think that San Francisco definitely wins this. I just know they came back and just wrecked Jacksonville, but they were like in a slump.
Well, and Matty brought this up on our last NFL picks, but they didn't have Deebo Samuel. And then the other person they didn't have in their lineup was maybe the best tackle in all of football, Trent Williams. They didn't have Trent Williams either. So,
is he back now?
Yeah, he played last week.
Okay. Yeah, it's 49ers.
Yeah. So.
I do think that Buccaneers will do some stuff, but it's the 49ers.
So the question isn't so much the Bills winning this game, because I feel like a revenge game is coming. But more so to the fact of it's also the Jets. And I feel really bad right now for the Jets because I feel like there's a revenge game coming for Buffalo. But with Josh Allen, it's a Jekyll and Hyde game.
I mean, last time we played them, didn't they? He threw 4 picks?
Mm-hmm.
And had the walk-off return for a touchdown. Buffalo by 10 plus points.
I think I have to pick Buffalo, but Josh Allen might throw 3 picks again.
Seahawks and Rams divisional game. Geno Smith is coming back down to earth, but he plays the Rams. I think Stafford is going to play. If not, it could be the newly signed quarterback Carson Wentz. So I'm saying Seahawks. What say you? I feel like
I think it depends entirely on if Matthew Stafford is back and healthy. If he's back and okay, I think I'm going to take the Rams.
The Seahawks just don't work.
I don't know. The Seahawks defense also isn't great, and the Rams have the obviously amazing playmakers. I think I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, I take the Rams too.
All right. rematch of the Super Bowl from last year, where Jalen Hurts outperformed Patrick Mahomes. I'm just sorry, that's just a fact. He outperformed Patrick Mahomes. They lost, but it is a rematch of the Super Bowl. Eagles away, facing the Kansas City Chiefs. It is also the Battle of the Kelseys, where there's probably going to be over under 20 mentions of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift during this game.
Well, and the families, the Kelseys and the Swifts are meeting at the game for the first time. So they're going to talk about that a lot. So that's fun. Eagles by 1 million.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
the Chiefs, the chink in their armor has been exposed, and Hurts is going to be out for blood. He's going to put his foot on their throat, and he's not going to stop.
Is Jalen Hurts the MVP?
MVP might be playing tonight.
Yeah, it's probably Lamar Jackson.
I wonder who predicted that before the season started.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
It's not like it would be someone from us. I mean, it's not like we have like true ball knowers, in this podcast. I don't know. Now, Broncos against the Vikings. Will the Vikings be doing the skull? The Viking skull? Or will the Broncos be riding Miles and or Thunder the horse out of the stadium with a victory?
I think we win this game.
Okay. I think so too. I think the Broncos do win the game, which would also be a back-to-back primetime victory. What about you, Manny?
Yeah, I think that we win 23-20. That's my prediction. It's not going to be a field goal to end the game. Thank God. I think it's going to be us getting a turnover against Minnesota as they're trying to go tie it up, and then we end up running the clock out. But 23-20, Broncos win.
And if they do, and if the Broncos do continue that win against the Minnesota Vikings, and of course on prime time, we know what that means.
We're going streaking!
Also, by the way, I will be on The Neighborhood. It is a show that is over on the MHRT network. I will be on with Bronco Bill, so I'm looking forward to that. Make sure you tune into that. It's not with YouTube, obviously. You can't play the entire game, right? Like on your YouTube, like you can't play the entire game. That's just the way things work in terms of copyright infringement. But it's like a watch party. Like if you were to do a virtual watch party. It's something that I think Matty and I have done, not recorded, but like a watch party, like when we do like the first round of the draft or something, but like just kind of shoot the breeze with us, get a chance to just, watch the game with us as you're on that YouTube stream. You can hop on with us. Brandon, Matty, you guys are certainly willing to hop on. It'll be me and Bronco Bill. So if you guys feel like shooting the breeze with us, come join us. It is The Neighborhood, so it'll be during the game and end of the game. Hope to see you guys there. And again, as always, we want to say thank you so much for hopping on to another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. Make sure you follow the Twitter handle at Manely Broncos. Matty, of course, down there in the bottom where he rubbed his lucky belly for a Denver Broncos victory tonight. At Matty Mulls Pod. He also, because it is basketball season, he does do a Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Matty?
Yeah, at OKC Topic Thunder. Lot to cover if you want to find out about the real unicorn of this rookie class in Chet Holmgren. Way better than that kid from France, Victor Wembanyama. Hop on over there. We give all the analysis. We do post-game pretty much every single night that the Thunder play a game. So hop on.
Yeah, I feel like that is the one thing I would like to see us add over here at the MHRT Network is something maybe Denver Nuggets related. Do like a Denver Nuggets podcast, over here on the network. Is got the Avs, let's get the other successful, team that is a part of, making us not cry. And that would be the Denver Nuggets, and maybe they'll host another banner. Maybe they'll host another banner, this year. We'll see. But
Dude, where did you get that?
It's called work.
That's fair.
Anyway,
that for a second, actually.
But anyway,
pretty dope.
Thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate you. We love you. And follow Matty at Matty Mulls Pod. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. And again, we want to say thank you to everybody that commented tonight on stream. Josh, we didn't get a chance to get to Biggie Bronco, but Josh, Clayton, we certainly appreciate you, Clayton. John K. Bawana Beast was in the chat earlier as well. So again, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Make sure you like the Facebook pages. There's the Manely Broncos Podcast Facebook page. There's the MHRT Facebook page. Go like both of those. And again, we appreciate you guys, and go Broncos.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what this is.